Alright, so I did a little bit yesterday while I was done. So after I did Dante, I filled in all the little buttons here. I colored his sword, just the basics. So it still needs to. I still need to do the outline on that. And I colored his hand, and I put in some shadows on the cake too, and gave it a little bit more detail. Colored a bit of his hand here, and then I colored the sword. Let me see if I can get the, let's see. I've got like so many layers open for it, trying to show the whole blade. Okay, so now that I removed the hand part, you can kind of see the detail in there. Colored the handle and the blade, and yeah, so the handle and the blade I did separately, so I wouldn't mess anything up. So yeah, so those the edges of the sword and the blade part. Okay, so today I'm gonna show how I do the backgrounds. So I'm gonna select the layer, if I can find it. Okay, so I found the layer and I have the eyedrop tool. So now I'm gonna try and show how I do the layers here. The highlights. So I'm gonna do. So this is gonna be the highlight video. So I selected the color, and I'm going to use the airbrush tool, and make sure I can make it bigger than what it is. So I'll just put the the highlight in the pads on the shoulder. Turn it over. And I have the highlights on a different layer, so if I go over the lines, I can just erase them. But actually, okay. Huh. Why can't I cover? Huh. So this is how I'll go about doing the highlights for the jacket. Again, I know it looks like kind of a weird color on camera, but that's not really what it'll look like. So and this is to give it that puffy look that, you know, the leather part of the pad has. Well, the shoulder pads and on the jacket and so this may be a bit too bright. I may dull it down. Because if I make it brighter than what it already is, then yeah, if I make it that bright, then it won't look realistic. So I want to keep it kind of realistic colored. Well, close to the, not too bright. Unless that's the style you want, so. Okay, I think I'm still coloring the, okay, wait. Just making sure I'm coloring on the right, right layer. Okay, so that's kind of, well, so this is kind of how I would do the highlights on the jacket. I know that, like, this is like a really bright blue, but it's really not that bright. It's just how it looks on camera. But what I probably will do, like, to make it more realistic, I'll probably like darken. Yeah, okay. See how it is on here is like I'll darken it, the highlights, to make them look a little more realistic or close. Yeah, I think how I had it originally was too bright, so I'll darken it a little bit, like probably about there. Yeah, I might keep it like that. So that's how I changed the shadows, or well, the highlights. If you know that's not the color I want. The last thing I changed was the teeth on the cake. So I added, if I zoom in, I added a little bit of like a highlight here and there, and separate the teeth so I can get rid of those lines around there. And so to blend this highlight, I would just use the the oil and water tool, which I'll show in just a minute on how I do that. Okay, so I selected the teeth layer, and I have the oil and water tool. So I'll just blend this area a little bit, just to show how I blend in the highlights that I put down here, just to blend them in with the background. And I do that to all the teeth. You can see it kind of blending in now, so give it that shine look to it. So this is how I do highlights and shadows, and so that's how I did the shadows, and I'll edit this part